Today we are going to describe the 5 key components of a commercial auto loss control program, which essentially means how do you put a system and process in place in your business to reduce the number of claims that you have on your commercial auto insurance program. Let's get into it right now. Hi. Ryan Hanley here, founder and president of 𝗨𝗏, where we do insurance differently, specifically by giving you knowledge and information to make the right insurance decision. Okay, when it comes to commercial auto insurance, the number one way to keep your premiums as low as possible is to reduce the number of losses that you have, the number of claims that you have, the number of accidents that you have. Okay, that probably makes sense at face value. I'm sure all of you are aware that if you don't have claims, your insurance premiums will be lower than if you do have claims. All right, easier said than done, especially when it comes to commercial auto, especially when you have employees driving vehicles they don't own around town or around a geographic region. There are all sorts of incidents that can happen with, especially because our autos in general, fairly high frequency activity for claims. Okay, so how do we keep them down? There are 5 key components to a commercial auto loss control program. We're gonna go through each one at a high level. If you have more questions, if you're interested in having us take a look at your commercial auto for you, our specialists here at 𝗨𝗏 can do that. Happy to help you, get you into a program and walk you through these loss control items. That being said, here are the 5 key commercial auto loss control items, or components of a loss control program, probably a better way to put it. All right, so management involvement is number 1, which means if you're a manager, whether that's a manager, a director, leader of some sort, if you have a team and you are a leader of that team and they drive commercial autos, it is imperative that you involve yourself. What that means is having regular meetings, talking through some of the other items on this list, talking through general driving best practices like distracted driving. If you can just simply get your people to not be distracted when they're driving, to keep that cell phone away, to if you're talking, be on AirPods, make the phone call before the vehicle is moving, things like that. If you can have your eyes, your ears, whatever, if you can have your hands focused on the road, doing the job of driving, you will have less claims. Distracted driving is a big one, but it comes from having managers regularly setting a culture, constantly being involved, doing drive-alongs occasionally just to see how people drive. Commercial auto is a major expense for any company, and keeping those premiums low is important, and management involvement is an enormous part of that and the number 1 key component. So the second key component is making sure that your drivers are actually qualified to drive. And what I see far too often is some 24-year-old kid who's never driven a box truck before joins a company. The company is short on labor. They need the box truck to get to a certain location. They hand the kid the keys and off he goes, right? Now, maybe that box truck requires a certain type of license. Maybe it doesn't. A lot of that depends on the state you're in. But what if that driver is inexperienced or doesn't have the proper qualifications and they get behind the wheel, there is a high likelihood they are going to create an accident which will lead to a claim. Make sure your people are trained. Train them even if they've been driving commercial vehicles for years. Regular training, ride-alongs, continuing education if that's part of your state's licensing program. Whatever is needed or necessary to keep your people up to date. That the small expense of those type of trainings and making sure they have the proper licensing and requirements, that small expense is nothing compared to the cost of a commercial auto program if your claims start to get out of control. So make sure your people have the proper licensing, qualifications, and are getting the proper training. Communicate policies well. That's component number 3. Communicate, over-communicate your policies, over-communicate the components of driving a commercial vehicle that are important to reducing claims. Things like timely braking, acceleration in terms of how you accelerate properly, how you make a turn, how you signal, checking your mirrors, making sure that things that your people know, what are the policies, what are the procedures, what are the proper How do we drive a vehicle? What is our system internally? And making sure that's properly communicated. And then just over communicating. You can't communicate it enough. Just keep communicating it. All right, I'll stop saying the word communicated. Trainings and meetings. Obviously, we've talked about that. That's component number 4. Training. Always be training your people, always talking to them. Again, the commercial auto insurance line item can get out of control if you're constantly having claims, especially if those claims start to get severe in any nature. You can find yourself paying an exorbitant amount of money for your commercial auto with no other options. And all of that comes back to your performance. So training is the key. With commercial auto, really you can't, if your rates are high, there's not a lot that you can complain about because it's most likely because you've had issues in your history. So make sure that you are constantly training people and that they know what to do at all times. Okay. And last, make sure you're keeping adequate record keeping practices. What that means is know where your vehicles are, know where people are driving, know who are driving those vehicles, where they're going, how long they're going, how long that trip is going to be, documenting your vehicles, documenting their usage, who, what, where, when, why. All of that is incredibly important. The reason being is that when commercial vehicles start to be used for little trips, little side trips, little personal things, all these additional trips, all these additional kind of detours, we'll say, throughout a trip, all lead to extra miles. The more time your vehicle's on the road, the more chance it has to have a claim. So record keeping is key component number 5. If you follow these 5 key components, which obviously all kind of fit the same vein, right? Having managers involved, communicating, and having practices and policies, make sure people have proper requirements, and then ultimately keeping records on where your vehicles are, who's using them, when they're using them, where they're going. If you do these things, you will drastically reduce the frequency and severity of commercial auto insurance claims that you have. If you need a quote for your commercial auto insurance, if this is the kind of relationship you'd like to have with your insurance agent, give us a call, 518-960-6600. We work in all 50 states, so wherever you are, we can help. You can visit us online at 𝗏𝗏 You can email us at gorogue@𝗏𝗏 or I'm sure there's a link or button somewhere around this video that lets you contact us. Whichever way you choose, we look forward to working with you.